Get this thing corrected. Audio is out. Audio's back in. Well, that seems like a ridiculous thing. I don't know why that was. I don't know why that was muted when I started. I just went through 2.5 minutes of spiel, and you guys didn't hear any of it. But now we're back. We're better than ever. We're killing it on a primetime Wednesday night. We're back, baby. We're right back in. Just when I thought I got out, they pull me back in, just like The Sopranos or The Godfather, whichever reference you prefer. We're back on. We're rocking. We're talking about Julio. We're talking about Christian Fulton. Pierre DeCourcy says, repeat everything you just said. I will not. I know a lot of people have been looking for ways to mute me. The only time that I can be muted is when I mute myself, clearly. So Julio, Christian Fulton, Odell Beckham Jr., we're doing it all, and we're doing it live, baby. Bleep it. We'll do it live. I love it. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. Since 1983, Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. Exceptional award-winning customer service. Brymak Mechanical, B-R-Y-M-A-K, Brymak.com. Satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. And if you are in the market for your dream address without the stress, you know that you better call the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com, your dream address without the stress. We haven't used the mini billboard in a while. It feels good to reunite with an old friend. GaryAshton.com. Of course, DraftKings Sportsbook promo code A2Z Sports is how you get in on all the action in your DraftKings Sportsbook app. No doubt. Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it live. We're doing it well. Sometimes I wish that would happen more often, says Wrath of the Titans. LOL, JK Buck. You know, I agree. I wish that I was able to be muted more often too. I didn't hear any sound at first. You're not alone, Ronnie. Nobody could. I'm just an idiot. I don't know why I started my show muted, but it's fine. We're back. We're killing it. And we're here to talk about a team that's getting healthy at the right time. This is great news for the Tennessee Titans. You're going to hear from Mike Vrabel on a number of subjects and Greg Cosell of NFL Films. But for tonight's show, you know, I think that the thing that I came away from practice today feeling for Tennessee as they get ready for the Saints, you know, I'm going through, we're taping the Cosell podcast. It's about 3:00 Central Time when we do that with Greg every Wednesday, and you'll hear a snippet of that tonight. But I'm going through the injury report today that comes out about 1:00, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, man, this is understanding that a lot of guys are having rest, and basically all of your defensive starters got a rest day on Wednesday, and that's going to be the case at this point. We're 10 weeks into the season. You know, you'll continue to see guys get that kind of rest, and I count 7 or 8, 9 defenders who got rest today. And then I'm going through the list and I see, oh, that's good. Nate Davis, concussion. He was a full participant today. I see Taylor Lewan, limited participant, still working through some knee stuff. Rashaan Evans back at practice. I'm reading the injury report right off my phone. And I'm going through A.J. Brown, knee, limited participant. That's new, knee versus a hamstring, so something to monitor. Jeff Simmons did not practice. David Long, DNP, Harold Landry, blah, 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 blah. Okay, all well and good. So I get finished going through the injury report, and I look for the first time in 10 weeks, and I say, oh, you know who's not on the injury report? Julio Jones. Julio Jones, for the first time, I think, since the start of the season. He's not on the injury report. It's week 10. It's November. You're getting ready to make a playoff push. You're starting to ramp things up, and you just came through your toughest stretch of your schedule. Now, games are going to be difficult, and I think that you cannot afford to sleep on teams like the Steelers, the Patriots, and the New Orleans Saints coming in. But Julio Jones, he's not on the injury report. This is big news, and you couple it with the fact that Christian Fulton was designated, not yet activated to the roster, but designated to return to practice today. So your best corner is coming back to a defense that's playing out of their minds football right now. I mean, really, really impressive stuff in the last month from the Titans defense. Now you have Julio Jones back and healthy and fully healthy for the first time against a team that he knows very, very well in New Orleans, coming to Nashville to play on Sunday. So you look at this and you're starting to say, all right, there's some positive things trending for a team that really needed to ramp this thing back up as the season got later and as the injuries started to mount over the couple of weeks. And it looks like for the Titans, that might have been successful. So let's talk about it, shall we? I want to start with your Two Rivers Ford take. What is a bigger deal for the Tennessee Titans? Julio Jones not on the injury report, or the return eventually, the eventual return, now that he's been designated to return, the eventual return of Christian Fulton? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We'll talk about it together over the course of the primetime show. What is a bigger deal for the Titans? Julio Jones not listed on the injury report, or Christian Fulton's return? We will discuss at length together right after I tell you about the people who present the Two Rivers Ford take. That's Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford has incredible vehicles becoming available more and more often each and every day. Two Rivers Ford is doing the best job humanly possible to make sure that you experience as few disruptions as humanly possible when you choose to trust them with your business as you search for a new or pre-owned vehicle. Two Rivers Ford is the best in the business. They're one of the most respected, if not the most respected brand name in the state of Tennessee. They're locally owned for 40 years, almost 40 years, here working in Middle Tennessee since 1983, and they'll continue to do business with honesty and integrity into the next 40 years. Two Rivers Ford is the best place to go when you're looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle. You'll love their non-commissioned sales staff and find out more about the Built For You program, which puts you in the best possible position to get the exact vehicle that you want that fits your budget and your needs. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So, what's the bigger deal at this point for the Titans? Christian Fulton's return or Julio not on the injury report? Jeffrey, Kevin's pin cord says both. Yes, Jeffrey, that's if you want to be no fun and not play the game, then yes, you can say both, because of course, they're both good things. Don't be ridiculous, Jeffrey. Of course, they're both good things, but I'm talking about for what you need right now. You may have them both on Sunday. We don't know that Christian Fulton is going to be active by then. I think that it's his first week back at practice, so I would expect them to slow play it more than they otherwise might. And by the way, because they're getting pretty good play out of Chris Jackson, out of Amani Hooker, out of Kevin Byard, out of Elijah Molden, who's come a long way to develop. The Titans secondary has found a way to go 4-0 throughout the course of this last month of games without their best corner, their best defensive back in the lineup. That's hugely impressive, and it's a big part of the reason why they're being so successful is because not only has the coverage been good, but the rush has been impeccable. Giancarlo De Leo, which is a fantastic name, says Julio, the load management cautious approach was for this reason exactly. Healthy Julio second half of the season and ready for a Super Bowl run. Yeah, so, I mean, we are officially through the halfway point of the NFL season, right? 17 games, 9 weeks in, 8 weeks left to go. And fortunately for the Titans, a bye week coming at the end of this month into the first week of December. So this thing is being staggered at exactly the right time where you're kind of, and I can't speak for the Titans medical staff. I can't speak for the coaching staff. I just look at this approach. And from my perspective, it makes a lot of sense, right? You slow play him through the early part as you try and get him right. You use him when you absolutely need to use him, but you don't overexert Julio Jones. You go through the situation. You get A.J. Brown back. It makes a big difference. Derrick Henry goes down. Okay, we need our wide receivers more. And who's there when A.J. Brown is struggling with consistency to catch the ball? Julio Jones, 4 for 4, 35 yards. Ryan Tannehill in critical spots in the second half, moving the ball down the field. Wasn't a great day for the Titans offense in L.A., but they didn't need it to be. Now they will need more of that, particularly going against a really tough Saints defense. And then you have Christian Fulton, who's coming back to a defense right now that's getting pressure more consistently than anybody. In the last 6 weeks, they have two of the most dominant interior defensive linemen in football, and you could probably make the argument that they have the most dominant defensive linemen in football. Jeffrey Simmons and Danico Autry, 27 pressures, 20 pressures between the two of them in weeks since week 6, respectively. They have been dominant, and Harold Landry, Bud Dupree eating as a result with that interior pressure that they're able to create. And it's allowed to have that kind of rush. It's allowed the corners, the young corners, Christian Fulton at the start of the year, and now Chris Jackson, now that he's having to play more on the outside after starting the season in the slot, they've been allowed to really develop because they're not being thrown into the fire the way that last year's defensive backs were, and an inability to get consistent pressure. So you've seen how the tables have kind of turned pretty dramatically in just one season with some upgraded horses up front. This is something for the Titans defense that cannot necessarily be measured. And the answer, of course, is going to be both. Both is the correct way to look at this. But ultimately, you have to look at them and say, okay, if they're going to gut it out, I mean, the most important thing for the Titans to continue to succeed is to get their offensive line healthy, because, I mean, that's their biggest issue on offense. But if they're going to drag things down into the muck, then the best way to keep in games and keep your offense afloat when you can get them in short fields and capitalize on field position and get in the red zone and go 3 for 3 like the Titans did on Sunday Night Football, well, the best thing is to just keep pumping up that defense that's playing out of their mind right now. I think that more importantly than Julio Jones not on the injury report is the fact that Christian Fulton is on track to come back soon.
Good to get the process going with Christian return to practice. And how happy have you been with the guys who've you've rotated a lot of different guys in there, how they've done as a group?
Yeah, we'll see what Christian looks like this week. This is a good thing to be able to get out on the practice field, do some stuff, get with coaches, get around his teammates, do individual drills, and evaluate him as the week goes along. And then guys have stepped up and improved and done a nice job for us. So, and everybody that we can get back would be great.
So that's Mike Vrabel talking about, Christian Fulton's potential return. And again, he is cleared to return to practice today. He is not yet activated to the roster, meaning that he is not yet available to play for the Titans. And then they may not outright need him just yet because of how well that the corners are playing in his absence. They've really, and Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker, as we talked about, Dane Cruikshank, has had some good snaps over the course of this stretch. Matthias Farley has been involved. Honestly, Chris Jones, who they signed to the active roster today. So that probably means that Fulton's still a little further off, and Chris Jones has played some good snaps for this team. This is a situation where you look at this and say, yeah, Christian Fulton coming back to a jacked up defense is going to be more important than anything right now. Obviously, you need to score points. You need to outscore teams that struggle, like the Saints and the Steelers, who are at this point in different worlds with their offense. One dealing without a quarterback, and really Ben Roethlisberger is playing better football as of late, but started the season as one of the worst quarterbacks in the sport with some of the throws that he was just outright missing. So as you look at this, I think for me that the better option, or the best option, if you had to pick from the two, and they're both good developments, is that Christian Fulton will soon be available to play for this defense that's already playing lights out right now. We'll continue to talk about it. Which do you think is the more important potential return, or Titans development, with Julio Jones being not on the injury report for the first time this season, or Christian Fulton cleared to return to practice today, not yet active, but trending in that direction? While you guys give me your answers, and we'll read some more of them here in a second, we'll continue the conversation. You'll hear from Mike Vrabel a few more times throughout the course of this show. I got to tell you that if you're a football fan and you're ready to score some free bets, now you can when you bet on any NFL game this week with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers who bet just $1 on either team to score can win $100 in free bets. When a team scores, you score. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also get skin in the game with new same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. It's a great time. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. Simply download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code A2ZSports. Bet just $1 on either team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code A2Z Sports this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, Tennessee only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and you'd like help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So, which do you think is the more important return at this point, or the more important development for the Tennessee Titans? Anthony Hill says we need better tight end help. Well, at this point, you're rolling with what you got. I think Tommy Hudson remains on injured reserve. It sounds like his return is not any kind of inevitable. He is long. I mean, he's been on IR since the Jets game, if memory serves. So it's not like he can't return at all, but it must have been a fairly significant injury. I remember it almost looked like a kidney shot the way that he got hit. He got taken out. He made a hell of a catch. And Tommy Hudson, I think you felt good about as a prospect, but this has been the second time that his season has been ended for one reason or another, PEDs, last season, and now having to deal with this injury that sidelined him for the better part of, I mean, it's over a month at this point, I think, since the Titans were in East Rutherford. So better tight end help is not necessarily coming. You're not making a trade at this point in the season in all likelihood. And only if somebody gets injured, would you look at another option at tight end? But right now, what you have is what you got. Sin City Titan says, has Buck backtracked on his selfish Aaron Rodgers comments after Aaron explained the situation, which he shouldn't have to do? No. In fact, I'm even more disappointed with Aaron Rodgers for getting on a national platform and spreading harmful misinformation and, basically lying and then not being accountable until his recent appearance on the Pat McAfee show today, where again, he apologized to people who he may have misinformed and then admitted that he had misinformed people. And this is coming in the wake because he's losing sponsors. So now that it's physically costing Aaron Rodgers money, he's out there publicly apologizing in a way that he did himself all kinds of marketing harm when he got out there and espoused reckless opinions that frankly just aren't truthful, much in the way that he lying about his vaccination status wasn't truthful, and now he is being fined as a result. So no, I'm not backtracking my selfish comments at all. I'm deeply disappointed in Aaron Rodgers. I find his talent to be exceptional. I had considered him very interesting and somebody who I thought had more presence of mind than that. This is a guy who goes and visits with the Dalai Lama in the offseason and goes and explores therapeutic ways to kind of expand his limits mentally as he tries to, further hone his craft as a quarterback. I mean, it's a really disappointing thing. I thought Aaron Rodgers showed his ass last week and, rightfully was held accountable by the people who pay him money to endorse him. And when you're sponsored by a healthcare company in Milwaukee that says, no, you can't be out here spreading vaccine misinformation and then cashing our checks. No, Aaron Rodgers, we can politely part ways, and that'll be the end of that. And we'll see what happens with State Farm, because he's literally, you lied to us, Aaron, and now you're trying to sell me car insurance. So I can't backtrack on my selfish Aaron Rodgers comments. No, in fact, I feel even more strongly about the Aaron Rodgers situation than I did not so long ago. So let's keep it on the Titans, though, because the Titans are the main comment, the main comment or the main subject of conversation tonight. Dr. the GOAT CJ, I did think it was laugh out loud funny when Pat McAfee goes, which doctors did you consult? Dr. Joe Rogan. It's just such a stupid story. And whatever. I'm glad that Aaron Rodgers had to go back out there publicly and correct himself. Anyway, let's talk about Christian Fulton and his return, and something that the Titans are doing at a high level right now. It plays into the exact right time for the Titans, who are playing high-level defense, whose defense has really been a big part of the reason why they're on a 5-game win streak. The question that I want to ask you guys in the comment section is, what does the Titans defense do best right now? What do you consider the Titans to do best on defense at this point? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, on Twitter, and on Twitch. We'll talk about it at length together, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. as far as the defense that's playing at a high level, well, we've talked about pressures. We've talked about Jeff. We've talked about the fact that the secondary is playing well, and you'll hear from Mike Vrabel on one of the more interesting. Mike gave us some really, really good information on just kind of how they game plan their pass rush. And it may not be, groundbreaking stuff to football people and coaches, but it's really the first time that we've gotten Mike to expand on something like that. So I'm looking forward to sharing that clip with you. We will do that right after I tell you about our friends at Brymak Mechanical. BRYMAK, Brymak.com is where you go for satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. Brymak Mechanical has 3 locations in Middle Tennessee and in Kentucky to make sure that you get exactly what it is that you require at Brymak.com. Commercial, residential, ductwork, Brymak does it. BRYMAK, Brymak Mechanical. So from the standpoint, I didn't see that State Farm has dropped Aaron Rodgers. I mean, listen, you can't come out and lie to the public and then expect to keep your sponsorship dollars as trusted NFL entity who should now be expected to sell me car insurance or or the Rodgers rate or whatever that crap was. You can't lie to people and then keep your money. That's not how it works. Let's move on and talk about this defense. What do they do best at this point? MB says, what are the options? Well, the options are, they've been better they've been really good as far as takeaways are concerned. So you could say that they're creating takeaways at a much higher rate than they did at the start of the season. You would be correct. You could say that they're really good at rushing the passer, which is accurate. You could say that their run defense is sneaky slept on. Run defense hasn't really been talked about, but the Titans, while doing all these things, run defense, you've just kind of put by the wayside because of the way that running the ball on basically, I'll say, who likes to run the ball? The Ravens, the Browns. The 49ers, I guess you could say like 25 of the 32 NFL teams running the ball really doesn't matter. So rushing defense kind of goes unnoticed, but the Titans have been really good both in the red zone and just straight up stifling the opponent's run. So you could go any number of ways, but I'm asking you what they're best at in your opinion. So, pressure, takeaways, coverage, third down, they're much improved. They're down almost 20% as far as third down conversions allowed at this point in the season. Joe Williams says the best thing that the Titans defense does is get after the quarterback. Ken Caniff, Jeff Sawyer, and Bryce Erickson, 2 S's, all agree. Rush with 4, which we have never been able to do before. Well, it's certainly been a long time, right? Not since like Javon Curse and Albert Haynesworth and Tony. I'm blanking on Tony's last name. You guys will remember it. He was a part of that stout Titans defensive line with Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator. I'm blanking on Tony's last name. I'm sure somebody will remind me in the comment sections. Red zone stops, says Eddie Cardona. Bend don't break, says Anthony Hill. The amount of field goals that they've been able to keep teams to. Tony Brown, thank you, Ryan Elaine. I was struggling with that. Kyle Vanden Bosch, also a part of that group. Yeah, it's been since then. Kevin Carter factors into that as well. Kevin Carter, of course, who played at Florida and then for the Tennessee Titans. There's a lot of good things that the Titans do, but it's been since Tony Brown and Albert Haynesworth and Kevin Carter and Javon Curse that you've been able to get pressure like this without having to send extra dudes. And you're doing it with more than just the front 4, right? David Long was one of the 4 pass rushers on these zone exchange blitzes that they would do. They dropped Bud Dupree back. They said David Long in. It was effective. It was affecting the quarterback. This is something that we have not seen the Titans do collectively other than individuals, right? You had that weird Jason Babin year, if memory serves, where I think he made the Pro Bowl. Jarrell Casey was only one man, but he did really affect the quarterback from a position that's very difficult to affect the quarterback from. But you look at this in a variety of ways, and I don't know how, I think the best thing, and I'm going to cheat a little bit by saying that the best part of what the Titans are doing right now is that their rush and their coverage are married together in a way that we did not see that kind of cohesiveness a year ago. This is something for the Titans that is the best thing that they do, that they're both working in harmony. Now, I know that I'm kind of cherry picking the two things and making them one, but I do think that that's an important part of the equation. And, Mike Vrabel, when we talked to him today before practice, felt similar.
Is the coordination with a pass rush in the sense of if one guy wins and flushes the quarterback, there's someone there where the quarterback is going, and how difficult is that to achieve?
Well, I think that first starts with who the quarterback is, Luke, and so some quarterbacks you may be a little less inclined to have coordination, and then other ones that we've played, certainly that's at a premium, and every week is a new week. Coach Williams, Coach Crow, obviously Shane, everybody involved, they come up with a plan, and they try to teach it to the pass rushers, whether it's a third down or 2-minute situation, whatever it may be. And then the guys have to go out and execute it. So I think the first part of your question is based on the quarterback, and then obviously how they run it. Using the game example with Jeff, the mistake that's commonly made is he rounds it off. Would have too much space in between him and the tackle as he came around. The tackle would then be able to give some ground to get a hand on him and run him by the quarterback. Jeff wrapped tight. Tackle couldn't come back and make the pass off. So, those are the struggles that we face offensively. Trying to stop those games, and when they're run properly, correctly, with good players, it's sometimes can be a challenge.
So I thought that was one of the most detailed responses that we've gotten from Vrabel. I mean, maybe ever, as far as like what their game plan is to pass rush specific quarterbacks, right? So what he's describing there is something that Jeff Simmons and Danico Autry execute well. Danico Autry and Harold Landry execute well. They have such a variety of stunts and twists and games that they play up front. And it's not just, as I mentioned, with the defensive line and with Harold and Bud Dupree, but they're doing it with David Long. They're doing it with Elijah Molden. They're doing so many different ways that it's confusing quarterbacks. It's keeping consistent pressure, and it's helping your coverage, which is playing really well right now. And Brad Lifford says, good job, Luke. Yeah, it's a great question by Luke Worsham, who asked that question today. I assume Luke is writing that at A to Z Sports, and I'm looking forward to, and we talked about that, Greg Cosell and myself, on tonight's episode of The Install, which is available to you now as of 6 p.m. Central Time. So you can go check that out. We never saw the wide nine until recently, says Ronnie Sneed. Yeah, listen, you're getting some more. I mean, that's a Jim Schwartz staple, right? There's different ways to incorporate it and have success because of the variety of different ways that you're attacking the quarterback, that you're scheming up this pressure, and that you're creating with the individuals that you have to create, right? MB says Belichick is the same way. They will answer specific coaching type questions. Well, yes, specific coaching type questions, right? But it's a very fine line between asking them a specific coaching question and how close it gets to scheme, right? Because they're never going to talk about scheme with you. They don't want that on public record in front of cameras and in front of phones and tweeted out on Twitter for Sean Payton to figure out what their defensive attack is, even though Sean Payton has the film at his disposal, that they're going to be overly cautious of giving up that kind of competitive advantage. So it's a really fine line. And I thought Luke did well to kind of balance that with a question that's about coaching and execution as opposed to outright scheme, right? And he got one of the best answers out of Vrabel that we've had in some time. Matt Stanley says, was it you that had Dr. Rush on the radio last year? He would be an awesome guest to book now to give X's and O's about this year's pass rush. Well, yeah, I do regularly have, I'm blanking on Chuck Smith. Chuck Smith is his name. He played for the Falcons and the Panthers. He played at the University of Tennessee. He's a pass rush guru. Literally, his handle on Twitter is Dr. Rush. He spent a lot of time with a lot of these guys. He used to work closely with Derek Morgan, works with Bud Dupree, and has worked with Bud Dupree in the past. I think I had Chuck on right after I don't think it was last year. I think it was right after they signed Bud, if I recall, right before they signed Bud, and he gave some really good insight. So yeah, it would be worth having Chuck back on. I'll shoot him a text after we wrap up primetime tonight. So ultimately, the way that I look at things is I say that the best thing that the Titans are doing right now is marrying the two together. But it's interesting to see that Mike Vrabel and their staff kind of game plan these things out to take advantage of the quarterback specifically and what their tendencies are, right? They have a whole staff dedicated to figuring out, all right, well, Josh Allen likes to roll to his right when he breaks contain. Well, how can we keep him from rolling to his right, make him uncomfortable, have to double back, have him hold the ball for an extra second, pressure gets home, right? These are the kind of tendencies that you study while you're scheming up your game plan for the week. And I thought Mike Vrabel was hugely informative that way. Be nice to see McMath come back, or Fitzpatrick, says Jonathan Corker. I mean, what do you, Jonathan, you're for, and let me not be dismissive of the question, okay, or of the statement, because I understand that when you look at your draft picks and specifically Fitzpatrick, that you have hopes for them to contribute to the football team, right? And with Josh Reynolds being released after asking for his release, now I love that Jamie is still in here naming random Titans pass rushers. Javon Hay is a good one. Thank you for this is like playing the game with 90s baseball, random 90s baseball players that you can name, random Titans pass rushers. So I understand, Jonathan, why you want to see McMath or Fitzpatrick. And Mike Vrabel was complimentary of Des Fitzpatrick. He said that he was the show team. So the not practice squad, but the show team is, who the offense or who the starting defense works against in practice to show them different looks like that the Rams are running or that the Saints will run as a part of their passing attack. So Mike Vrabel was complimentary about him as a special teams player and him as a show team player of the week, I believe is what Mike said. And that's, it's good progress, right? You can see that he's invested in getting better and doubling down on his craft. But I would say to you that, I don't, McMath was targeted once, right? The entire time that he was available. And I think he went on IR after week 5, if memory serves. So, and Fitzpatrick has yet to be active for a game. So it's not like that couldn't change with Josh Reynolds being unavailable, but I would imagine, and by the way, McMath remains on injured reserve, so he's not available to you yet. He's not even designated to return just yet. I would say to you that lower your expectations, and maybe you have none, but you just want to see them. But I would say lower your expectations for what you're looking for out of these wide receivers, these rookie wide receivers, because I just don't think they're in a position just yet to help you legitimately win games. And if you're going to have them active on game days, then that's what they need to do. Until then, be pleased with the progress that they're making, even if it's, you're not outright seeing it on the football field because it's happening at practice and on things like show team. Evan White says, from listening over a fairly long period, I feel like your various jobs have increased your football IQ a lot, Buck. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we're gonna play a clip from Cosell talking about Odell Beckham Jr., because I know that's been a name that's on the lips of many Titans fans and on the Twitter timelines of many Titans fans. And we'll talk about whether it's realistic for them or, frankly, for another team, particularly the team that the Titans are going to play this weekend. But yeah, I am talking a lot more. And, with the amount that I'm talking more and with the specific things that I'm being asked to do and fortunate to do, right? The Cosell podcast is, it's really high level stuff. And I am studying film in a way that I never saw. I won't say that I never studied film because that's not true. I would obviously watch the games back, but I watch all 22 film now, like I'm some kind of tape grinder or something like that. And really, it's just because I'm scared to sound like an idiot when we do the podcast with Cosell every Wednesday. So yeah, out of fear, all the new things that I'm doing and the conversations that I have with Coach Mack and Mina Kimes, by the way, is going to be on the radio show tomorrow. Mina's so smart when it comes to the intricacies of schematics of football. And so to not sound like a dumbass with these people, I am studying film in ways that that my girlfriend hates me for, that is consuming my life. I spent my lunch break today. So I don't really have like a lunch break. I come home from the radio show at 1:00 and I'm home for the rest of the day pretty much. So, I eat lunch though after I get off the radio, and I spent my lunch break watching the fourth quarter and overtime of Vikings Ravens because I need Greg to tell me how the hell Lamar Jackson is winning from the pocket all of a sudden and bringing his team back into games and winning games as a conventional drop back quarterback, because I'm interested in that. And also I know Greg is seeing that on the film, and I want to find ways to, as an interviewer, stimulate better questions. So that's a long way of answering. Thank you for saying that I sound smarter than I have been in a while. And I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but I'm definitely as football cognizant as I've ever been in my life. And again, it's out of fear and not wanting to sound like a stupid person every time I talk to these people about the NFL. So somebody just put in the chat that Scott Proctor says on Facebook, New Orleans defensive back CJ Gardner-Johnson has a broken toe and likely won't play. I have not seen that, but I will double check my Twitter timeline at this point to ensure that we haven't missed any breaking news. It does not look that way at this time, but I know he did not practice today with a toe injury. I'm not seeing any confirmation of that, but yeah, he's on the injury report with a foot issue, and it was described as a toe. And then PJ Williams, I believe, was the safety who filled in for him. CJ Gardner-Johnson is one of their better players. Alvin Kamara may not play in this game either, but he is listed as a day-to-day proposition with a knee issue, and we will see how that develops. Old tape grinder rising, says Bobby French. Yeah, it's really tough. I never had an appreciation for what football coaches must go through on a daily basis, because my brain is mush after I watch something that I think I understand, and then Greg tells me, "No, you idiot, you have no idea what you're talking about," and then I have to go back and rewatch it to make sure that I'm seeing it right. MB says, I love Mina Kimes. She is really football intelligent. I mean, Mina's all around intelligent. Mina went to Yale. You know what I'm saying? Like, Mina was a Forbes business reporter. I think it was Forbes or Business Insider business reporter before she decided, yeah, I'm going to make a second career and be a national television star and understand everything there is to know about football. Jamie says, yay or nay from Buck the Guru, OBJ. All right, let's talk about it, shall we? And let's get Cosell involved, because that's something that we spent some time on the podcast today. The question that I have for you is this: what team needs OBJ's help the most? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We'll discuss it at length together over the course of this evening. What team needs OBJ's help the most? Give me your answer, and we'll talk about it on the A to Z Sports Primetime Show right after I tell you about the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. Let's bust out. We don't use the mini billboard enough anymore. We really don't. But tonight we will, because I know that you know that the place that you go for your dream address without the stress is right here, GaryAshton.com, the official real estate agent of the Titans, of the Nashville Predators, who I believe I've got the Grizzlies game on, but I believe the Preds are up 3-1 on Dallas as well. The Ashton team will get you the best intel in the industry to succeed at a high level. GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress as well. Go ahead and sell for more if you're in the market to do so at GaryAshton.com. So, DJ Rex says, Buck, just wanted to say sup, and you the man. Thank you, DJ. You are as well. Van Jeffrey says, hey, Buck, saw you on TV at the Rams game. Can I borrow your suit you had on? You were fly. Yeah, listen, your boy is very cognizant of what I wear to games now. And I will say to you, no, you cannot borrow my suits, Van, because my suits are made specifically for me. So I would tell you that unless you are 6'3" and a little heavier than need be at 200 and I think when I weighed myself this morning, I was 242. Unless you have the same physical dimensions as I do, Van, I would say, no, you cannot borrow my suits because I don't know if you'd be swimming in them or stretch them out. But either way, they are not designed to fit everybody. So who needs Odell Beckham Jr. the most at this point? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Steven says the Pats. Rocky Rockefeller says of the Titans, OBJ is a cancer of the locker room. I'll pass. No, I think that's such a lame opinion, right? Like, he's not a cancer to the locker room. He's a wide receiver with a personality. Like, you don't get pissed at AJ Brown because he's got a personality. AJ and Odell have different personalities. Like, I'm not saying that at all, but like Antonio Brown has a personality, and also he's a really damn good football player. If you don't want Odell, it's because Odell's not that good of a football player, or not as good of a football player as he's been, not because he's a cancer to the locker room. If you're worried about Rocky, here's what I'll say to you, okay? And look at it this way and see if this doesn't kind of alter the way that you think. If you're worried about Odell Beckham Jr. as a locker room cancer, then why do you think your locker room is so frail that it can't handle something like that? Your general manager doesn't think that you have some kind of locker room frailty, that you can't handle different kinds of personalities. Hell, in 2000, I remember being at the Combine in 2019, being at a bar with a bunch of NFL executives and media and, coaches, because it's the Combine and everybody's fraternizing in Indianapolis. And a report drops in the middle of the night, I believe it was Schefter, saying that Antonio Brown was a possibility for three teams: the Raiders, who ended up signing with, the Washington football team, and the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans took risks on people like Isaiah Wilson. Again, this didn't pan out, but it doesn't mean that they're opposed to taking chances on guys who have stronger personalities or may have some kind of personality flaw that you don't necessarily agree with. If you think your locker room is so frail, Rocky, then why are you so dismissive of your team? Do you not believe in your team, or are you projecting your own mental frailties onto your team? Because I think that speaks more about you than it does about the locker room. And listen, I haven't physically been in a locker room in 2 years because of COVID, and that sucks. It's really hindered my ability to get to know these guys the way that I like to get to know these guys, and to help tell better stories when I talk to you guys, right? But yeah, mental. I mean, that kind of mental frailty that you're talking about, I think that's more about how you're projecting your own mindset about what your team can handle, as opposed to what your team can actually handle. Because the team that I cover right now, I don't think they're that kind of mentally weak. You know what I'm saying? MB says, "Oh wow, I didn't know she went to." Yeah, Mina did go to Yale. Mina's a badass. You know what I'm saying? Like, Mina Kimes is an outright badass. I'm looking forward to having Mina on. It's been a while, and we'll talk shop, and that'll be at 10:20 tomorrow on the radio show. So, and Tierre Tart, Titans defensive tackle, going to be on the radio show as well. So make sure you're listening. Packer IR needs OBJ. Says James Henderson. Yeah, I think that Green Bay could use some help at the wide receiver position. C-Dub says the New England Patriots, they have just terrible skill position players, and I think that you could help Mac Jones a lot. Mac Jones isn't special, and Odell Beckham probably needs a quarterback to help make him special again. Also, he's got two bad shoulders. Like, he's got shoulder issues right now, and he was quoted 2 weeks ago telling Cleveland reporters that he didn't plan on having surgery because it's not just one, it's two. And the thing that immediately comes to mind when you think of Odell Beckham and shoulders is that play with the Giants that was on highlight reels until the end of time, of him diving backwards, Neo in the Matrix style, to make a play, reaching out past the pylon, stretching his shoulder back over that Cowboys defender, and then coming down with the football one-handed. You haven't seen Odell make a lot of those plays anymore. Donovan Romaine says the Titans' upcoming opponent, the Saints, need OBJ the most, and their wide receiving core has been just ravaged by injury. It's in a bad spot. And I agree. So I asked Greg Cosell today whether OBJ could help the Saints, and Greg's answer was yeah. But Greg, on the other side of the ball, They have been dealing with plenty of injuries, both at the quarterback position and at the wide receiver. Odell Beckham Jr. at this point remains a free agent, and with the Saints wide receiver arsenal depleted the way it is that a player that can legitimately help them as a football team right now, given that that's where a lot of the reporting is indicating that he might end up?
Sure, he can help them. I don't think he's quite the player he was. I don't think he's quite as explosive.
Yeah.
I don't think he's quite as good run after catch. I don't think he's quite as good catching the ball in the middle of the field. But you're dealing with a team who, when they went 3 wide, had Callaway, had Harris, and had Smith.
Yeah.
So they're certainly looking for, and Stills played meaningful snaps as well. So they're looking for bodies, better bodies. So could he help? Sure. If you just look at the talent, but it's not what it was.
Well, and that's been really, because Titans fans, obviously, and any team, they see a name, they want to know if their team can add the name. And at this point, just based on my untrained eye, Odell Beckham Jr. is more a famous person who is also an NFL wide receiver as opposed to what he has been, and which he has been great. And I don't want that to sound like a personal shot at Odell. He just doesn't seem to have the same kind of ability that made him special.
That's what they say about you, Buck. You're a famous person who just happens to do radio.
You know what, Greg? If that's the only thing that they're saying, that's about as nice a thing that's been said to me in a long time. So we'll take it and run with it.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I mean, that's all speculation at this point.
Sure. So apparently Cosell is implying that I'm the Odell Beckham Jr. of sports talk hosts. Because I thought I had a great line for Greg. I'm like, Odell Beckham Jr. is just, I've been workshopping that take all night long. I swear to God. I was like, yeah, that's a great one. Odell Beckham Jr. is just a famous person that plays football. And Cosell comes right back and just smacks me in the face. Says, well, I think you're just a famous person that does radio. And I'm not a famous person. There's no shittier celebrity than a local sports talk professional. But Greg was quick on the trigger that way. It's a good podcast, by the way. Today, I mean, not that they're not all good episodes with Greg, but I really do suggest that you go check out the install with Greg Cosell. We do it every Wednesday, me and Greg, and it's we have a lot of fun doing it, and it's made me smarter about football. So if it's having an effect on me, I'm not very smart. I know that you guys, who are a lot smarter than me, will be able to learn something about your favorite football teams as well. So I hope we're putting on a product that you enjoy. But yeah, he can help the Saints the most at this point. And I mean, I know for Titans fans who see names and want names out there, and you want to have a conversation because it's something that they all do, that every fan base does, right? You see a name and you want to know, can my team put that name on my team, right? And with Odell and the Titans, it's not about who he is. It's about, to be cliche, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Is bringing in Odell going to be overtly beneficial to you on a football field to balance out all of the attention? Because Odell's going to bring attention, and Odell's going to be who Odell is, and that comes with some distractions. And if it's the bigger distraction than it is production, then the Titans aren't going to mess with it, right? And that's something that they've been pretty consistent on. Greg Tape King Cosell, says Brad Lipford. Yeah, Greg kills it, man. I'm fortunate to work with a lot of smart people between Coach Mack and Mina Kimes and Greg Cosell, and when we have Mike Golick Jr. on and my buddy Nate Tice. Hell, we had Marty Smith on the radio show this week. I love listening to Cosell and Coach Mack. Where else can I follow them? Well, Coach Mack does. Here's what I'll say about Coach Mack. He does every show on the Zone once a week. He does my show every Friday. I believe he does J. Martin Ramon on Mondays. I think 3HL or Blaine and Mickey on Tuesdays. Either way, Coach Mack's on so you can get a different version of the Coach Mack interview, because we all have him on once a week on the Zone. And we're lucky that way, because we're the Titans radio flagship. And because we carry the broadcast, we get first crack at Coach Mack. Nobody else gets Coach Mack. Cosell, he has the NFL matchup show on ESPN. I DVR it. I watch it before I get ready for that weekend's games. It airs pretty early in the morning, so I always do DVR it because it's really, really high level stuff with him and not Shane Bowen, but Matt Bowen and Sal Palantonio. But yeah, Greg, here's the thing: like Cosell doesn't do a podcast with a bunch of other people. Like he has radio hits around the country that he does on a regular basis, but he's not doing, I think we did 29 minutes of just full in-depth breakdown about any one team anywhere else. So we're lucky that Greg chose us to do that project. And I'm hugely fortunate to be able to do that project with Greg. Because like I said, it makes me a lot better at my job, which hopefully benefits you guys. We can't get Odell, but could you imagine, says Charlie? It would be fun. I would have a lot of fun. I would have a great time. Let's wrap this thing up. What did I meant to tell you guys about something, and I've forgotten what exactly I was supposed to tell you. Perhaps I'll remember tomorrow when we do our last primetime show of the week. I'm sorry about that. My brain just went completely dead, which must mean it's the end of the show. We've had a fun one. I think we've had an informative one. Go check out the Install Podcast, available to you now, wherever you get your podcast. The full episode is also on the YouTube page for 104.5 The Zone. So you can turn your notifications on there and you can get it in your feed or on your YouTube page. Every Wednesday, radio show, going to be great tomorrow. As I mentioned, Mina Kimes, T.R. Tart, Titans defensive tackle, are going to be our guests. And then on Friday, I think we have Coach Mack and we have King John Reed. It's going to be jam-packed and loaded. And another great 615 sessions and two home games in a row for me, which means I don't have to travel, which means that my home life is going to get a lot easier and I could sleep in my own bed for at least 2 weeks. Hype about that. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Talk to you guys on the radio show tomorrow. And if not, we'll see you tomorrow night